If you are tired of fighting and you want to know if actually it's possible to end a marriage with your dignity and your family intact, stay tuned. So this conversation will give you the tools necessary to make it possible. Welcome back. Welcome to Divorcing Strong, the podcast that pulls no punches when it comes to divorce. I'm Becky Sampson, better known as Bulldog Becky Brockovich. And I'm here to give you the straight talk, the strategies, and the subpoena secrets you won't hear anywhere else. With expert guests and proven advice, you'll learn your rights, your options, and gain your power that encourages a fair and equitable outcome. Divorce doesn't have to break you. It can build you. Let's get to it. Oh, welcome back to another episode of Divorcing Strong podcast. I saw Greg's, our guest's face when I said Becky Brockovich. So, because I have them backstage, I can see them, and it's always they're like, "What?" Yeah, that's who I am, Bulldog Becky Brockovich. So, welcome back to another show. Gosh, this is our third one in one day, and it's interesting because we started the day off with a lot of. The first podcast was really about conflict resolution, or not conflict. Sorry, parental alienation, which is so much about narcissism and really advocating for yourself. And then I was a guest on somebody else's show about narcissistic and how to really combat that. The third one was about narcissism. And this third one, this fourth one is going to be a different show. Okay. It literally is going to help you. I truly believe when you have two willing people, and even if you have one that's not so willing, you can really affect the outcome of someone else. I'm not talking narcissism. I'm not talking that toxic, because we really can't, there's very little that we can do to influence them. But I have had my own personal experience of when I've done my own personal work that it literally creates miracles. So we're going to talk about that today because our guest has had experiences in his life and why he's so passionate about helping people get through this and come out the other side stronger and more connected than they ever thought that was possible. So on today's episode of Divorcing Strong, we are challenging the old story in the book, the idea that divorce is a failure. What if you end the marriage? It wasn't a crash landing, but it's a conscious completion. Today's guest is proof that you can come out of the fire, not just surviving, but evolving. I'm joined by Greg Wheeler. He's a certified conscious uncoupling coach, calling in the one coach and the man who has helped more than 400 people navigate transition from couple to co-parents. What I love about Greg's story, though, is that he isn't just speaking from theory. He is a single dad of 4 who has walked through his own relationship endings. Greg understands the emotional complexities of untangling a life while still wanting to parent well and love well. He focuses on reducing conflict, healing the deeper unconscious patterns that drive relationship breakdowns, and helping people consciously uncouple in a way that creates stability for their children and a space for healthier love moving forward. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Hi, Becky. Thank you for that really, really nice introduction.
Oh, you're so welcome. I love it because I love that, and I talk about this a lot on our shows, but I love that the people in this space typically have come from their own experience. And we bring that experience to our passion to be able to help people. And so I'm excited for you to share your story, share your wisdom, and share your heart and your passion for what you do. So before we kind of dive into that, though, give us a background of, what is your story? How did you get to this point? And why are you so passionate about what you do now?
Well, thanks. And I'm passionate about what I do now because raising 4 children as a single dad, after a very difficult War of the Worlds kind of divorced 28 years ago. That was before a lot of this work was available.
Mm-hmm.
And so I lived it, and it was painful. And over the years, I've seen some of the scars and the wear and tear on my kids and their relationships. And as I've done the inner, as I've done the inner work and taken care of my own negative patterns in terms of showing up in relationships,
Right.
I've been able to see how this not only heals myself and my life, but it heals the people around me. And so I'm passionate about making a difference for people who are going through this for the first time or even the second time, so that they don't have to carry the scars forward. There is a better way, a more graceful way to go through one of the most difficult and emotional experiences.
How do you know when you're talking to somebody, how do you know if it's going to be the right fit for them to, I mean, it'd be great in a world where everything works great and perfect and we do our own work and we come together. But how do you, when you're talking to someone, know that if it's the right fit to do this kind of deep work with them, and if it's going to impact them through the divorce or even afterwards?
Well, it's really interesting. It kind of comes down to the individual person's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be open, to be willing to learn and to look at some of the difficult things, because most people don't realize it when they first reach out for help, but they're helped co-create the situation that they've been living in. And so the gift inside of this work is that if you're willing to look, you can learn at your part, learn from your part in what you co-created, so that you can grow and evolve from that. And you don't have to repeat it again going forward. So the sidebar real quick, most second marriages fail. Upwards of 70% of second marriages fail. And the reason for that is that people don't do the work after their first marriage to learn and grow and heal, so that they don't repeat. A lot of times they pick someone in some ways who's either an extreme opposite of their past person, or they pick someone very similar to their first husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so they wind up repeating a lot of the same mistakes.
I will say, Greg, you know, I tell people all the time, I've been divorced twice, not just once, but twice, happily married now to the love of my life. But I will say there was an 8 years in between the first and the second. And I was a very different person. And I had done a lot of dating coaching, and I had done a lot of self-development and done a lot of work to repair from what I created in my first marriage. And I really felt like I was in a good place to get married again. However, I didn't get married again to get divorced. I mean, nobody does, right? I thought that 8 years was long enough, you know, but what I didn't realize is that there were some things that I still obviously became a target, which I didn't connect those dots.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things about Catherine Woodward Thomas's work. She's the one who wrote Conscious Uncoupling, the book, and Calling in the One book, and who also certified me in both of those coaching modalities. But one of the things about that is that many times what we don't know about ourselves is that we created an identity that helped us deal with our life and our primary caregivers when we were younger. And Catherine calls this a source fracture wound or a false identity. Mm-hmm. And so we start creating our life with those pair of glasses on, that perspective. And so then the life that we create becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because we look at it from that perspective, we anticipate it showing up in that way, and it does. And so we stay inside of that false identity. And just to put that in the false identity helped you when you were little. It was actually a form of trauma reaction, form of trauma recovery, because there was something that you needed growing up that you didn't get. And so you developed a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And this coping mechanism runs deep. And so you can do a lot of quote unquote traditional work. You can do a lot of behavioral modification type of work and everything else. But until you get down underneath that to the who you've been, how you've been showing up, that is the manifestation of that identity you created when you were little, it's really hard to fully change how you're showing up in the present and going forward.
And what do you say to someone that has never even tapped into, like, oh, so I had something to do with this abusive relationship that I was in or that I came out of? What would you say to them in opening up their mind to possibilities of what this work can do for them?
Well, again, someone needs to have an attitude that they're actually willing to be able to hear and ask that question, hear the answer to that, and to ask that question. So assuming that they do, it actually goes all the way back, because in the very beginning, they chose to be with that person.
Mm-hmm.
And in the very beginning, there were some warning signs that they decided to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
The behavioral patterns that they're now experiencing that are painful and are really difficult, and they can no longer continue to put up with or deal with, there were signs that they were there in the very beginning. And so part of their part in co-creating this relationship was that they didn't know how to love themselves enough in the beginning to say no to that.
Mm.
So they were, from inside of that false identity, they were too scared that they wouldn't be enough, or that they wouldn't be wanted, or they wouldn't be valued, or they wouldn't be loved, or they're not going to be safe. So rather than own their truth and their feelings and stand up for themselves enough, love themselves enough to put them on the table, they were quiet, or they played small.
Yeah.
Or they tried to overgive in order to not rock the boat.
Well, and what would you say to somebody that is scared? I mean, I can imagine somebody might be watching this and being like, well, what is the work? And what does this entail? Is it scary? Does it hurt? Does it, what is it that I know you're saying look back in the past so that you can kind of figure out why we attracted these certain things, but how do they get past that fear, I should say?
Well, the way I like to explain that and put a really positive approach to it is that in order to grow, heal, and evolve, and to have happier relationships, healthier relationships, and a life that goes along with that, you need to be able to see. First, you need to be able to see your negative patterns. Mm-hmm. Second, you need to be able to face them, to name them, and face them. And then once you name them and face them, you can embrace them, acknowledge, own them, maybe even take responsibility for them, because that's how you've been showing up. And once you've done that, you can replace them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a detective story in a way, where you're trying to figure out, okay, so what's been happening? What are the clues? Well, in my particular case, my dad was an amazing provider, but back in the day, he was a fully functional alcoholic. Mm. And so after 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, my dad would finally be sitting down, and I'd want some one-on-one time with him. And it would be difficult because he would be argumentative, and I would get verbal abuse and things like that. So what I learned is that I wasn't good enough for my dad. And so for many years, until I learned about this work and did it myself, I was an overgiver. I was an overachiever. I worked for the hardest bosses. I was one of the people who worked latest at work.
Yep. Amen. I'm guilty of all of that.
To prove that I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And in the same way, that overcommitment to over-earn and over-succeed, and even to be an overly good husband, that can show up as over controlling. Here, do it this way. Let me help
Yeah.
you. Let me show you how to do this, as opposed to just letting someone do it their way. And so I reaffirmed that and I lived it until I was able to finally see it and name it, face it, embrace it, and then
Yeah.
replace it.
I think it was it oh gosh.
Gwyneth Paltrow, who first named.
Oh,
Oh,
I was
sorry.
going to say somebody 10 years ago, Dr. Phil, I think. Didn't he say that you can't change what you can't acknowledge? I don't remember where.
Absolutely. Not only can you not change it,
Yeah.
if you just try and make behavioral changes, a lot of times they won't stick because
Mm-hmm.
what's underneath is a bias and a prejudice and a
Mm-hmm.
way of looking at things. Then you'll do it for a while and you may lose the 20 pounds, but then you're going to put them back on again because you really don't see yourself as 20 pounds lighter.
Yeah. No, you know what, as a young girl, I mean, I grew up at a summer camp for kids, and I remember probably 8, 9, 10, around that age is when I really started doing meditation and listening to music. I was one of those very curious kids, meaning like I want to know how the world ticks. I want to know how I tick. Why am I struggling in these relationships that I have? Why am I feeling the way that I am? Why do I feel so isolated and ignored and not good enough? And and I've been through so much therapy that I put myself in, right? So many looking for answers. And then it's interesting that I would attract two men into my life where I feel like I always had to prove myself. And that's been a something in my entire life. My now husband, when we were first married, just to be totally transparent and real, it was probably a couple months into our marriage. And he came into the bathroom one morning when I was doing my hair and he's like, Becky, you do not need to prove anything to me. I know who you are. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Like,
Yeah, what
I,
a gift. Absolutely.
yeah. But it, it is understanding what's functioning underneath that subconsciousness, to be able to then recognize it, call it out, face it, and release it. Because,
So there's actually a deeper truth.
yeah.
And part of the deeper truth is connected to who you were born to be.
Mm,
And who you've been inside of your false identity is who you learned to be. So this process, that's a 5-step process that I typically do in like 8 sessions, the Conscious Uncoupling program, to help you become conscious of and to uncouple from your negative patterns.
mm,
It actually helps you reconnect with who you were born to be
mm.
or you've learned to be who you've been. That's kind of a mouthful, but it's real and it's magical and it gives you a sense of freedom. So what I learned in juxtaposition to my I'm not good enough is that I'm more than good enough and I'm a
Yes.
gift and I'm here because I have gifts to share. So I don't have to keep trying to prove myself. It's okay to just be me and do the best. And yeah, I'm going to make mistakes. And the universe gives us the opportunity sometimes to make the same mistakes more than once so that we can figure out and learn our lessons.
Well, and again, it's being able to see that and reframe it. Like people say that going, just like I said in the intro, is they may think that divorce is a failure. But what if the divorce was the moment where you kind of woke up and started realizing some things about yourself and can honor that experience? I know my first husband, even though we were very abusive to each other, we got together. I told you before the show, we got together and did a radio show 3 years after our divorce, where we sat down and we really talked and digested. He had done a lot of this work as well at the tail end of our marriage, and he admitted in that interview, he's like, I just wasn't going as fast as you were, and I was waking up and realizing, oh my gosh, look what I created. And this is not okay with me anymore because of not okay for me to treat him that way, but it also wasn't okay for him to be treating me the way he was. And so it changed the dynamics. And, you know, I look back on that experience and be like, look, I always said, I'm so grateful that you love the hell out of me. Like you got all my, you know, stuff to the surface so I could actually see it and address it. And he was part of that journey, and I honored him for that. And for a long time, he was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, no. Look, we went through this journey together, and thank you.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I went through a similar experience. I just want to digress for a moment, and then I'll come back.
Yeah.
Maybe you've heard of imago theory and Harville Hendricks and the book Getting the Love That You Want.
Oh, yes. I have heard that, actually.
Yes. And so imago theory says that if you walk into a room of 200 people and you're single, you're going to be attracted to the one person in there who is most likely and most capable of pushing your buttons to give you the opportunity to grow and to learn, evolve. And so if we can love ourselves enough to be open to looking at our mistakes, we can turn our mistakes into gifts that we can learn from so that we don't repeat them. And the simplest example of that is learning to ride a bicycle. I don't know of anybody who learned to ride a bicycle without falling down once, at least. So by falling down a couple times, learning to ride a bicycle, you learn how to ride it and you don't fall down anymore. So, yeah. So I want to come back to the fact that you got to a place where you were both able to acknowledge that you're grateful for the experience of how you've grown and how your current life is much richer and healthier and happier and more love-filled than it was before. So I had a similar experience. I was divorced quite a long time ago, 28 years ago. And it wasn't until 10 years ago that I found Catherine, and I did the conscious uncoupling work as I got certified as a conscious uncoupling coach. So I've been there, I've done this myself. And so showing up as that healed version of myself, able to stand in my deeper truth of who I was born to be, I then healed the energy in my family. And so my 4 children picked up on it, and they said, hey, Dad and Mom, we want you guys to get together for the first time in some 22 years or so.
It's amazing.
And so she had this small place, a single bedroom house in Missouri. And so the 4 kids and 3 dogs and 2 adults for that first Christmas together after 20 years of was amazing. We cooked and ate a lot of meals and had a few drinks and played games and shared presents. And it was so great that we've been getting together for the last 7 Christmases.
That is amazing.
So it wouldn't have been possible without this work.
Yeah. And what are the tools that you used, some of the tools that you used in order to get yourself to that point? I mean, you had mentioned something about 5 steps or something. I don't know if those are some of the tools that you do or if that's just what you teach.
Well, that's kind of the way of doing it. So the first step is to start to acknowledge what's really true for you. Because I actually use the same program, Conscious Uncoupling, to help people recouple. So what happens is that when they release that false identity, connect to their true identity, and let go of their negative patterns, there's an opportunity. It's rare, but it does happen. There's an opportunity for them to create a new relationship. It's not about fixing the old one. It's creating a new relationship from a point of view of what you both are excited about sharing and creating together from this new perspective. So some of the steps first involve acknowledging what's really true for you that's working and what's not working in your life, and in particular in your relationship.
Yeah, and without judgment, I would like to say.
No, without judgment.
That's the hardest part, is that you're beating yourself up or beating up them or whatever. This happened to me, or even if it's trauma, it happened. Like, without judgment. And I call it detached observation, because you're just experiencing it. You're just exploring it without the judgment attached to it. Very important.
So in the second step, you take a look at how you might be contributing to these things that are hurtful and are painful and that are so disappointing to you. And so when that truth becomes clear, or those connections become clear to you, there's an opportunity to make an amends to yourself. And in Catherine's world, making amends is a formal process where you take some time to acknowledge, well, this is what I actually did. And this is what the negative consequences were. So you look at in some detail the negative impact of the behavior that you did. And then you love yourself enough to say, well, now that I see this and understand this, in the future, in these situations, I'm going to do it like this instead of like that. So
making a conscious choice.
Making a conscious choice and identifying the choice point. So this is the situation. This is where I can choose to do it differently. And I'm promising, because I love myself and I care about whoever's being impacted by this, to do it differently. And so then the last piece of that is thanking either the other person or yourself for the opportunity to learn this and to grow from it and to start creating better, healthier, happier experiences going forward. So that's step 2. In step 3, we leverage the connection to the feelings and the needs that are not being met and that are connected to the false identity. So you actually get to name the false identity. And there's 3 main parts to it. There's the I am, that's how you are showing up. There's the others are, it's how you perceive and how you've trained others to treat you. And then there's life is. So as a result of the I am and how others are, this is how life shows up for me. And most of us, when we name the false identity, life is hard. It's usually lonely. It's usually unsatisfying. And it seems hopeless in some ways, or some combination of those. So then once you've named that false identity in step 3, you get to connect with who you were born to be before you learned that. And so this deconstructs that false identity. In my case, it was, I'm not good enough, simplified, by the way. So I'm not good enough. And so I am more than good enough, and I'm a gift. And others criticize and judge me and don't value me. And so then I'm blessed with gifts that I have the opportunity to share with others in the world. And I get to choose to be with others who love and cherish and value me the same way I love, cherish, and value them.
So that sounds like what you're doing is you're reframing, right?
It is a reframing at the deepest level. It's connecting to the truth that whether you believe in God or the universe, or you just believe in your genetic history, you're here for a reason. And you're unique. And so connected to that, you have gifts and you're here for a positive reason. And you have an opportunity, if you're open to it, to start connecting to them, growing them, and sharing them with others.
So do you find this is hard work for people?
So yeah, in some ways, when you've based your life on showing up a certain way and being a certain version of yourself, treating others a certain way and treating life a certain way, you've justified your behaviors.
And you've created stories around it. Right?
Justification stories. Absolutely. I have to do this. I don't have a choice. If I don't do this bad.
Such a victim.
Exactly. Victimization, shaming, and blaming. And so it can be really hard. It takes some real soul searching to be open to acknowledging how some of the most difficult times you've had in your life you helped co-create. And so the support and the gift in that is that there's hope, that you don't have to do it anymore. There's a brighter future that you're now opened the door to. Many of us have been locked inside the cage of that false identity. And we're the ones who kept it locked because we didn't know any better. And so this opportunity to reframe, I like to say deconstruct the old identity, is to unlock that door and create new possibilities and a new future and new future positive relationships.
You know, that reminds me of something that my mom and I talked about, because she's always like my rock when I was going through my divorce. And I always said to her, I said, this experience is refining me, not defining me.
That's beautiful.
And if I knew when difficult times came, I always, and this is again a lot of self-development work. I was in a lot of groups and things like that. So I mean, I was learning it. I was being integrated into it. But I often looked at like, what am I supposed to be learning through this experience? What am I learning about myself? Not about the world, and well, it could be about the world, but other people. But what am I learning about myself? And I love that you bring it back to that we do matter and we are important, and we were born to create beautiful things in our life and beautiful relationships in our life. And that is hard for someone that's been in an abusive relationship or where they've been put down. It is a beautiful process to watch somebody come out of that cocoon, you know, and to start taking step by step by step by step. And you start going, oh, they're seeing it. Yeah. They're like getting, you can see them with their little wings, right? And they're growing they're growing into this beautiful butterfly. I love that analogy because I feel like that's my life story. Because I lost a lot of weight out of my first marriage, and I didn't know I was smart or beautiful. I say this. And so I didn't know my true self until I did. And even at that, there were so many layers of uncovering. And now to the point where it's like, I'm not perfect, but I'm like, man, I honor the journey that this has refined me into being this beautiful individual with still a soft heart after everything I've been through. That has probably been one of my most important things to keep intact, because I know that if I harden my heart towards anyone, which I'm still human, it only destroys me, not them.
Yeah. Oh, I love so much of what you just said. It's beautiful. And, you know, there's a part of it that underneath that, somewhere along the way, you learn to love yourself enough. Mm-hmm. And many people from inside of their false identity, they don't feel that it's okay to love themselves. Right. They don't feel that they're good enough, or they're lovable, or they're valuable, or wanted enough to love themselves enough. And so as you go through these difficult changes, it really takes a lot to cross that line of what you learned when you were little. And that's one of the reasons why I love this work, like you said, though, to see somebody start to change and to start to get their wings and to start to have a healthier perspective about themselves and others in life. It's a really beautiful thing. And so this work in steps 4, it's about owning and owning your new identity and being able to clean up your relationships. And some relationships you might need to let go of because you can now see that they're unhealthy. And there are new opportunities with people that you maybe didn't see the value of that you want to bring in to your community and into your sphere. And then there's also, it affects all aspects of your life. It affects how you show up at work. You know, it affects how you set boundaries and take care of yourself by enforcing some of your boundaries. And so your community, your children, your significant other, these relationships have an opportunity to go to a much deeper level as you show up as your real self. It's really a beautiful, beautiful thing. So in step 4, you make amends to others. And you learn some skills about having generative conversations, using I and me type statements instead of you, which can be accusatory and negative. Get away from why and asking intelligent questions. I'm wondering where this came from, or what were you hoping to achieve by this, instead of why. Again, opening the door for sincere, honest, authentic communication.
Mm.
And then step 5 is where, if you're looking at a divorce or looking at a breakup in a relationship, it's where you come face to face with, okay, well, here are commitments, agreements that we had made coming into the relationship, and which ones do we want to let go of, and which ones might we want to keep. Now, if you have children, there are commitments around being good parents and being co-parents and things that you want to put in place. And then you have the opportunity, what agreements might you want to work on and put in place to show up differently? And this is where you get to talk about things like, what kind of co-parenting relationship? How are you going to treat each other in public space? And how are we going to show up with our family and community members that we share in common? Most importantly, this is powerful when it comes to your children. Mm-hmm. You always want to do what's best for the children and not put them in the middle and not cause them to take sides. And so this is part of what step 5 is about. And it's building the foundation of the kind of person and life and future you want to be having going forward.
Well, you mentioned, I appreciate those 5 steps. The thing that keeps coming to my mind is that you mentioned it earlier on, that sometimes you take couples through this as they're going through divorce and they decide to stay together. Like that, how has that, I mean, honestly, I'm all for marriage, right? I'm all for staying together. Have you experienced that with some of the couples that you work with, where they're like, you know what, if we have the tools in front of us because we're both doing our own work. That is something, sometimes you get into counseling, and I've been into marriage counseling where it's like, he did this, she did that. But if we both did our own work genuinely, could that bring us back together?
I love your bringing this up. Thank you. So the way I work with this is I take individuals of a couple separately through the Conscious Uncoupling program, all the way through, and it's 8 sessions individually all the way through, in order to help them do their own deep work. Mm-hmm. Because you can't show up as your most vulnerable, weakest self with your partner sitting right next to you when you're afraid they're going to take it as ammunition and throw it back in the first fight that you have or disagreement you have. So you first have to get clear about who you are. You have to get clear about taking responsibility for your part in co-creating the situation that you now. And if you can own that and share what it is that you're going to do differently going forward, that's when the joint sessions are so powerful. Mm-hmm. There's an opportunity to share about what they learned from steps 3, 4, and 5 with each other in a very safe way. And there's a lot more compassion and empathy present in that situation, because to get there, they've learned their part in co-creating it. So they've learned that they're partially guilty. So there's a certain amount of humbleness and compassion and acknowledgement that they can't just blame the other person.
Right.
Now, I will say that there are abusive relationships that are difficult, and it's very difficult to bring people together in joint sessions in a very abusive situation. Right. So that's different. But in a situation where people start out where, they're willing, they realize there's kids, or there's something to learn from this, and they want to come out with an opportunity to have learned, grown, evolved, and in some ways healed, so that they don't have to repeat this again, then that's where this work is really powerful. Now, there's one more thing. It is rare, because most of the time, even like in addicts, no one's ready to ask for help until they've either hit rock bottom or the dark night of the soul, or they realize they can't do it alone, which is a really painful place for it to happen. They just can't take it anymore. So they finally get help. So a lot of times when couples come for conscious uncoupling at that point, there's just too much pain, even though they learn and grow and they can heal a number of things and they can create a co-parenting environment. There's really too much pain that has passed for them to recouple. So
yeah, I know. That's exactly
for
what.
all of you out there who are struggling in your relationship, before it gets to that point,
Yeah.
get some help. It doesn't have to go that way if you can both do the work and up level and get to an even place where there's something that you're both excited about co-creating together.
I agree. I truly believe. I mean, I think as you were talking in this last little part about how couples are doing their own and then coming together, and sometimes that there is too much damage that's been done and lost trust. I was thinking about my first divorce, and it's interesting. A lot of people would say, look, there was physical abuse on his end, towards me. Mine was more emotional and emotional and verbal. But I look back and I'm like, I think we would have had a shot had I not felt so unsafe. I mean, and I was rightfully so. But it gotten too far, too many experiences where I just didn't feel safe anymore.
Yeah, it's
And
that lack of trust.
Yes.
The trust has gotten beaten down so low.
Yeah.
That it's hard, even though somebody's showing up differently and sounding differently and committed to doing differently, you just don't know if you can go there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a tough decision for me to make, because I didn't want to be divorced. I wanted it to work, and I could see that he was trying. And anyway, it's just, everything happens for a reason. But I do always, when people call me in dire need, and I just had a call yesterday, if you can make it work, and if you can come together and talk it out and be able to process and do your own work, because this process sounds very much like 12-step work.
It is. There are similarities.
Yes.
And I don't know if you're familiar with Landmark International.
Yep. Very familiar.
There are pieces of that are wrapped inside of here, and there's pieces from a lot of other famous. So it's really the heart of it. The secret of Catherine's work is a somatic, ontological identity transformation that is supported and takes place and creates the opportunity for something different going forward.
Yeah. Change the way that you look at life, and life will change. People can change when you look at them differently. And I've got to do work around that too. I mean, I'm like every other human being. I never stop learning. I never stop evaluating and thinking about how can I better show up? How can I improve within myself? Because it's an inside job, and it's only me. I can only affect me. I can't affect somebody else. So,
well, you're one of a small percentage of the population who have that positive attitude about the fact that if you don't step outside your comfort zone, if you don't try something you've never tried before, everything's going to stay the same. You're going to stay stuck. There's no growth opportunity. But if you do try something new, if you do try something risky and you fail or make a mistake, it's actually a gift. It's not a reason to turn around and go backwards. It's a reason to say, just like you said, what can I learn from this? How can I show up differently? How can I create an opportunity that I didn't have using this learning?
I remember being at I did a lot of what do you call them? Ropes courses. I staffed ropes courses. I did a lot of stuff like that. And I remember there was one time I was buddied up with somebody, and she was my buddy for I think for the week or whatever. And I was cheering on somebody else, and she's like, buddy, you're not paying attention to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, because we were supposed to go on a high beam experience. And I knew I had to shift the energy Like I had to shift the energy in that moment or else it was going to be a disaster of an experience for me. And we went up to the base where we were going to climb up the trees. We were all in harnesses and everything. And I went up to her and immediately I just put my hand on her chest and I just said, I am so sorry. I'm going to cry because it was a moment where I didn't recognize that I was neglecting her. She told me the feedback. I heard the feedback. And then I'm sitting in front of the person that's facilitating it. And we're having this moment eyeball to eyeball, like this far away from each other. And I said, I am so sorry. I said, in order for us to do this properly, this next activity, you and I need to be clear. Are we clear? And she goes, clear. All right, done. And we got up and we did the thing. And I swear the facilitator was like, I've never seen somebody shift so fast.
That's beautiful.
But when we take responsibility and ownership, because I'm sensitive to that, I mean, I can't control what other people think. However, if I see that I have made a decision that's making it difficult and I've done something, I need to quickly get there, take responsibility. And she taught me something that day that sometimes I get cheering on everybody else and forget the very people that are closest to me. And so anyway, it's doing the work.
That's really wonderful. I want to point out one thing that for all the listeners to pick up on. The most important thing, none of that would have happened if you didn't hear her.
Yeah.
So you were open to listening and to hearing that you might have been missing something, or there could have been something you did better, or that you might have been hurting someone or whatever.
It was important to her.
That's important to her, right? Exactly. And so a lot of people are so focused on themselves that they don't even allow themselves to hear that. Mm-hmm. So it's a really powerful skill to develop and capacity to develop, to be able to hear when you're needed somewhere else like that.
Well, and had we not shifted at that moment, when we went up on that high rope and we had to do a trust, we had to lean up against each other and trust each other, and we weren't clear, it would have been a disaster. But it was a beautiful experience because both of us were open to that. I mean, she also had to be open to forgiving quickly.
Yeah.
All right, got it. Let's go. Let's move.
So what an analogy, right? I mean, we have to learn to be able to lean up against one another in our relationships.
Trust.
We have to learn how to trust the other person. And there are going to be times when the partner needs space, and there's going to be time when you need space. And it's not that you don't love them. It's that you're following your individual dreams.
Absolutely.
And you're being supported.
I'm so sorry. We're going to have to end because I have another podcast I'm guesting on. So,
It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Yes. I just have one last question for you is, what does divorcing strong mean to you?
Divorcing strong means that you've dedicated a lot of your life together. You've tried dreams, you've had hopes, and you've had a lot of life experiences together. So divorcing strong is not destroying that. Divorcing strong is hopefully turning it into a learning experience when you can be in gratitude for what you've shared and co-created and learn from each other, and then have respect and only the best wishes for the other person so that they can be happy and have a happy life, because everyone deserves to be happy. So if you really can divorce strong, you can wind up in a place where you want the best for the other individual as well as yourself.
Oh, thank you so much, Greg. I promise I will have you definitely back on the show to be able to share more of this beautiful piece and this space, this safe space for people to heal really and move on and become stronger. So
Thank you.
Make sure you contact Greg, and you've got all this contact information down at the bottom. See, even my phone is like, we're done. Anyway, hold on just 1 second and we will finish off. So hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Hold on. Thanks so much, you guys, for joining us on another episode of the Divorcing Strong podcast. Please also reach out if you need any help. Reach out to Greg, reach out to the other resources that I have within the network. And we'd love to be able to support you and make it so that you can come through your divorce stronger. This has been a really beautiful ending of the day for me. Since so much conflict, and then now it's about peace and healing, because it really, really can happen if you're willing to be open to the process. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Divorcing Strong podcast. This episode is sponsored by Only Subpoenas, where we make subpoenas simple, powerful, and 100% compliant. If you're having a hard time getting the information you need to settle for a fair and equitable divorce, let us help you. Whether you're an attorney or you're navigating divorce on your own, subpoenas can uncover the truth, secure the evidence you need, and level the playing field. To see how we can help, book an appointment by visiting our website at onlysubpoenas.com.